Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more. Hello, this is Richard Jacobs with the Future Tech and Future Tech Health podcast. I have Cavin Balaster. He's the founder of a couple of initiatives. One is adventuresinbraininjury.com. Another one's called Feedabrain, FEEDABRAIN.com. And Cavin, according to the bio I have, is a severe traumatic brain injury survivor. And he was given less than a 10% chance to recover beyond a persistent vegetative state. But he's recovered. He's here. He's the creator of, again, adventuresinbraininjury.com and feedabrain.com. He's also the host of Adventures in Brain Injury podcast. He's the author of How to Feed a Brain, Nutrition for Optimal Brain Function and Repair. And we're going to talk about his initiatives, especially Feed a Brain. So, Cavin, thank you for coming.
Awesome. What's up, man? Yeah, I was going to correct you. My name's Cavin. Yeah, I want to try saying my name again. Let's get it right.
Oh, did I say Calvin instead of Cavin?
You said yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, cool. I think I need your help because my brain is not good at enunciation and pronunciation. So sorry about that, but Cavin, thank you.
I went to lots of speech-language pathologists to get my enunciation back together because I was, I slurred my speech and used to always get mistaken for being intoxicated.
Really?
That was fun. Yeah.
Well, if you don't mind, what happened? I hope it's okay to recount the experience, but what happened to cause you to have traumatic brain injury?
Yeah. So in 2011, I sustained a severe traumatic brain injury after a fall from a rooftop water tower. While I was in a coma, I was diagnosed with a diffuse axonal injury. And if you go on Google and type that in, you're going to get source after source after source, and they all basically say the same thing. 90% never wake up. And of the 10% that do, most remain in a persistent vegetative state. So I'm very fortunate to have woken from a coma. I didn't eat, walk, or talk for months. My left hand was entirely flexed inward. I was breathing through a tube. I was eating through a tube. And a whole lot went into my recovery.
Yeah, it sounds like it. What were you experiencing during the first, when you first woke up from the coma in the first few months? Like, were you able to think? Did you realize what was going on, or what did you feel like mentally?
Thank you for asking that. Yeah, it was actually, I woke up in a white-walled room with a bunch of doctors that I didn't recognize, guys in lab coats, poking and prodding me, had tubes protruding from every orifice, and they were telling me a story that I didn't remember. And I honestly, I thought my mind went to the conclusion that I had been abducted by some sick and twisted experimenters that were testing some nasty hallucinogens on me and seeing what happened. Like, this is where my mind went, right? And and so I was in extreme brain fog. I didn't know, I had no memory of the past. I couldn't really even contemplate the future because I didn't know at all about the past or who I was. It was crazy. And it was a long time. I love that I had the support of my friends and family that were there because there's different kinds of memory. And so there's episodic memory, which is memory of facts and vocabulary. And episodic is of episodes of events that happened. Semantic is facts and vocabularies. And then there's an emotional memory where we see somebody and we feel warmth from them. we recognize them, and to feel
Okay.
like, yeah, I know that person and like that person. It's like, oh, they just told me that they're my mother. Well, you look like you're probably my mother, and I feel some warmth from you. So that's the what was left of my spotted memory that I had to rely on. So I developed that kind of strategy subconsciously. But I wanna fast forward a bit because we only got a half hour, right? I could tell this story for days. We could talk about it. But
Well, we can go a bit longer, but if you don't mind,
yeah,
can I ask
absolutely.
you? Yeah, can I ask you just a couple more questions about it, because it's rare that you get to talk to someone that this has happened. If you go backwards a little bit, if you can, do you remember being in a coma? Like, how long were you in a coma, and do you have any memories of that, or sensations, or was it just like the next thing you knew you were awake and you have no memory of the coma?
Yeah, it was more like the latter. I woke. It was just darkness. I woke up. The last thing I remember. I actually had to search for my memories. But yeah, I just woke up and it was complete blackness. Some people experience like going through a tunnel and stuff. That's not an experience I had.
Okay. And then so you described what you felt like when you first woke up, but what happened over the ensuing months as you you started therapy and all that? What was your mindset, and how did you make the decision? All right, I got to do something about this and help myself. Like, what was your thought process?
Well, so all sorts of therapy going into regaining normal abilities. And before my injury, I was a musician. I'm still a musician, but I played guitar and I sang. And now my left hand was completely flexed inward, and I was breathing through a tube and was unable to talk, let alone sing. And so I'm looking at this scenario that I'm in, and I'm like, man, this sucks. My life's over, And then I realized that I'm on this ride either way. I could go on it kicking and screaming the whole way, or I could recognize that this was an adventure. I could take that perspective. And eventually it wasn't far-fetched, because adventure sucks sometimes, And taking that perspective shifted everything. And it was with that's where the name Adventures in Brain Injury was born. That whole idea of like, and the thing is, we all have situations in our life that are that suck.
Yeah.
It's like we
definitely
can look at them like, oh, this is the worst, or we can switch our perspective and give our attention to a perspective that feels better. And I was in a place where it was like I needed to change that perception if I was going to reclaim anything. So switching over to that perspective, and then moving forward, doing everything I could to make this adventure a good story, basically. Make it a victory, right? And so
that's great.
I'm going through all sorts of therapies. I did a lot of therapy on my wrist, and as soon as I could wrap my hand around a guitar, that's what I did. I had a throat surgery done, and I could talk again. And as soon as I could speak, I tried to sing. And music saved my life. The doctors and the medical team and conventional medicine, emergency medicine saved my life for sure. But music is what gave me the drive, what gave me the motivation to push forward and to reclaim my soul, my passion, right? And so
That's great.
So with that came all sorts of other aspects of recovery. And I know we're going to talk about nutrition. So at one point throughout my recovery, I was steered towards a nutritional protocol, and I began to regain clarity. And I was like, whoa, okay, there's something to nutrition. What's going on? See, what happened is I had a blood test done by my functional neurologist, and it showed that I had low protein levels, like certain amino acids were low. And I said to him, I was like, Doc, that doesn't make any sense. I have meat with every meal. I have a protein shake every morning. What are you saying? Eat more meat? And he's like, no. Your body's not absorbing the nutrients that you're eating. And I was like, okay. And so he put me on this nutritional protocol, and I began to regain clarity. And that's when I dove in, and I realized that what he was doing was a protocol to heal my digestion. And as my digestion healed, I was able to get nutrients to my brain. So now that we're getting nutrients to the brain, because leaky gut or intestinal permeability is extremely common with brain injury. But now that I was getting, So like when the brain takes a blow, communication to the digestion is reduced. And when communication to our digestion is reduced, the intestinal wall becomes more permeable. And when the intestinal wall is more permeable, whole food particles are able to enter the bloodstream undigested. And when that happens, an immune response occurs, which releases inflammatory cytokines, among other immune response. And those inflammatory cytokines, which are basically chemical messengers that tell the body to inflame that area, are small enough to cross even a healthy blood-brain barrier.
Do you think that that happens because the brain says, I'm not getting enough nutrients, so I'm going to open up the permeability in the hopes of getting more nutrients to me?
No, absolutely not. No, because when we open up the permeability, it actually causes an immune response, which means you don't get the nutrients because your blood is going to react to a whole food particle the same way it would react to a splinter or something else foreign in your bloodstream. But when it's broken down into individual nutrients, then your blood knows what to do with those. It can package them up and send them around the body.
Right.
So I think it's more like in coordination with the gut lumen. So they're called tight junctions, which come together and in your intestines. And I'm getting a little I don't know, jargony, techie, but I figure you have a pretty smart audience. Is that about right?
Yeah. If we go back and forth between technical back to the general concepts, I think that that works well. That's what we tend to do. Yeah.
Sounds good to me, man. So when the intestinal permeability becomes the intestinal lining becomes more permeable because the communication isn't happening. And so bottom line is, what we need to do is focus on the gut. So when I did and I focused on the gut, all of a sudden I was receiving nutrients to my brain and I was regaining clarity, and I was like, all right, nutrition. Now I'm getting the nutrition to my brain. What is the best possible nutrition I can give my brain? And what can I do beyond nutrition to optimize my brain function, which would optimize my recovery? When the cells of the brain are functioning optimally, they are repairing themselves optimally. So that's where I did a bunch more research. I started I'm relearning how to walk at this point, but we have the internet. And so I was able to watch videos, listen to podcasts, read articles. I learned how to read peer-reviewed research. And I learned about where I could take online courses from top universities. So I started taking courses from University of Chicago, Duke, Cal Polytech, Cal Institute of Technology, taking courses to understand how the brain works, how the brain learns, because that's what I need to do is rebuild connections in my brain, and how the brain is fueled. So that's what I mean by neurometabolism, how the neurons are fueled. And more research going down the line, reaching out to practitioners, and and eventually came together with a eating protocol that I began to practice.
Okay.
And yeah.
If you don't mind my asking, so what was some of the first protocols that the doctor prescribed to you, and then how did you improve upon them and change them after that with your own research?
Sure. So the first protocol was it was actually a pretty standard leaky gut protocol, and it was actually done through. It was done with Apex Energetics products. So Apex is a supplement company. They make some really amazing supplements, and they have excellent protocols to bring the body back into function, the brain and the body back into function. And so I began doing a leaky gut protocol using Apex products, and that included like L-glutamine, marshmallow root extract, colostrum, licorice root extract.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyways, these compounds that are shown to heal the intestinal permeability. And as that was going, I also was introduced to bone broth. And broth has so many benefits. And I recognize that eating nutrients in isolated pill or powder form isn't the way humans evolved, right? We evolved eating food. So where could I get these nutrients in the food supply? And with bone broth, it has so many of the important healing compounds that really help to heal our digestion. And so I began to incorporate bone broth. And I remember I used to wake up every morning in immense pain. Like it was a pain unlike anything I'd ever felt before. My left side was numb because of the brain injury, yet it ached. It felt like stiff, extremely stiff. I felt like I was 100 years old. In fact, I joked and called my brain injury instant old man.
Oh no!
And so when I first made the first batch of bone broth, I took the first sip and I was like, like every cell in my body was thanking me. And so I had a couple more cups that night, had soup for dinner, and then the next day, for the first time in months, I woke up not feeling like an old man. It was amazing. So bone broth is a huge part of what I did, and I found a fabulous company recently who actually has a similar story to mine, in the sense that it's first of all it's a mom and daughter company. Because the daughter had digestive issues, and they learned a bone broth because she studied like her life depended on it, much like me, because it did. And then they found the power of bone broth. Yet she was living in New York City at the time, and her and her mom were on the phone, and like, it looks like bone broth really could help. And yeah, but Mom, I live in New York. I don't have time. I don't have space. And I think it would be very frowned upon if I left a burner on for 48 hours. So her mom was like, you know what? I'll make it and send it to you. She's like, and so she started sending bone broth from the Midwest to New York, and the daughter Leia started getting better, and it was amazing, like really, like much better. And so then at one point they saw each other, and then she like busted her ankle, and the doctors did a follow-up X-ray after like casting her, and they were like, your bone's healing better than anything we've seen. That's amazing. her and her mom like looked at each other and were like, "This stuff's really powerful." I go,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Yeah, but like people need to know about this." And I was like, "Yeah, and people like me don't have the ability to cook it, and they most certainly don't have a mother who's willing to cook it for them and ship it to them." And her mom, Dorothy, said, "I could be that mother." And that's how Broth Masters was born. And I love these guys. So which is why I'm promoting them. They're phenomenal. And yeah, if you want to go there, it's $15 off if you use the code FEEDABRAIN and brothmasters.com. Yeah, so that was a huge aspect of the digestive thing. But then what are the nutrients for the brain? And so that's where I dove in way more and started contacting practitioners as well and learning everything I could for that. So do you want to know some of the stuff included in there?
Yeah, I do. I just have a quick question. Bone broth now, you can get it, frozen in Whole Foods. I mean, you can make it yourself, etc. But I would bet, certain kinds are better than others. What have you found are some of the factors or tweaks you can make to it that will make it better than not or more effective?
Really awesome you asked that because, yeah, the box or the bone broth in a box or a can, that stuff it's been irradiated or pasteurized and it doesn't have the nutrients that homemade bone broth does. So I mean, as far as frozen bone broth goes, that's just far better. And I think for the most part, that's the main shtick is like go for some frozen bone broth or make it yourself and make it really rich. Make it with a lot of bones. Although, when I first started doing bone broth, I started very mild because I wasn't ready for it as far as like, and I started putting it in like smoothies and things like that, doing weird stuff with it because it's medicine, and I figured as much as I can get, the better. So, I started incorporating it in just about everything. But, for products, I also really like Broth Masters because they have this process, proprietary process or whatever, that includes way more calcium than any other of the broths, and it's really and it's bioavailable calcium because like the calcium we get from milk isn't even bioavailable. Calcium rich. It's like the majority of it we don't even get.
Okay. So with bone broth, just one or two quick questions. I know this is not about bone broth only, but chicken or beef mixture is better. Can you put organs in there? I mean, is it just the bones? Any other tweaks or hints to make it really good?
Good call with the organs. That would be great. And so I'm actually, if we're going to puree things like organs, I think that's a great call. And actually, there's a section of my book. I haven't even introduced it. I have a book. So yeah, I ended up writing a book called How to Feed a Brain: Nutrition for Optimal Brain Function and Repair, as you said. And in that book, there actually is a section on gastric feeding, which is essentially done by taking bone broth and adding in produce, meat, and fat. And I outline what that produce, meat, and fat would look like as well. And yeah, really, really powerful to have basically all the nutrients that your brain and body needs right there in a liquid form. So if we want to fortify our bone broth, that's the way to do it. Go to the gastric feed section in my book and check that out.
Okay. All right. So bone broth, huge critical component. What else did you discover that was important in addition to bone broth?
So bone broth, And then as far as your produce goes, you want to get 3 different kinds of produce or phytonutrients, right? We want to get phytonutrients found in greens, like dark leafy greens, which are pretty self-explanatory. We want to get sulfur-rich vegetables, which come from onions and garlic and mushrooms and brassica, like cabbage and cauliflower and broccoli, things of that sort. And then finally, deeply pigmented fruits and vegetables for their antioxidant content and other aspects. And what I mean by deeply pigmented is colored all the way through. So like an apple doesn't count because it's pigmented on the outside, but it's like white on the inside, right? Same with pears and bananas as well. They're far too sugary and far too few nutrients. Everybody says like, what about potassium? There's like at least twice as much potassium in an avocado than there is in a banana, and I'm pretty sure it's way more than that. But yeah, I think.
Right, so a beet might be a good example, maybe, of a highly pigmented vegetable. Okay.
Yeah, beet, berries, squash. So squash is going to be kind of on the higher carb side. But carrots, peppers, and we take the fruits and vegetables and we lump them together for this because honestly, it's not whether it's a fruit or a vegetable that matters. It's the nutrient content of that fruit or vegetable. And most people, we call fruits vegetables all the time. Like, you're probably aware that olives and avocados are both fruits, right? But then also,
I didn't know that. I know tomatoes, olives, but I didn't know
right. Yeah, tomatoes, olives, avocados. Check this out. Cucumbers, squash, like summer squash, zucchinis, peppers, green, red, whatever color pepper, jalapeno peppers too. They're all fruits. So it doesn't even matter if it's a fruit or a vegetable. We call them different things anyways. It's more the color of that fruit and vegetable and how it's pigmented throughout. So we want to get fruits and vegetables that are pigmented throughout. The thing about fruits, we usually talk about fruits that have kind of a sweeter taste to it, right? And of course, a sweet taste usually signifies higher carbohydrates because of the sugar in there. And so what I've done is I actually in the book I've created a nutritional guide that you can print out, and on that guide it has all of these different colored fruits and vegetables separated by color, and then also broken down into low carb, moderate carb, or high carb. And I even put the total carbs, the fiber, and then what the net carbohydrates would be there, which is really helpful if you're looking to encourage a ketogenic metabolism.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and a ketogenic metabolism is great for the brain. Your audience know much about ketogenic metabolism?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a whole series of podcasts on it, so yeah, we've covered that quite a bit. Yeah.
Well, all right. Let me say something though about people know about quote unquote the ketogenic diet or the keto diet, right? And I did a presentation last week and was like, so what are ketones? Ketones are a substrate or a fuel source for energy metabolism, for our body to create ATP. Glucose is also a substrate. It is also a fuel source to create ATP. So talking about the keto diet is like talking about the glucose diet. And there are many glucose diets, right? Like the standard American diet, that's totally a glucose diet. There are many different ketogenic diets. We're utilizing ketogenic metabolism instead of glucose metabolism. So with Feed a Brain, I don't really tell you what your macronutrients should be. I encourage a higher fat, and the reason I do so is because people's macronutrient needs change at different times, you know. And like if we're trying to lose weight, totally, we want to reduce carbs, increase fats. Like good things will happen with that, unless our liver isn't ready for that, or our adrenals are shot, or we have thyroid issues. Like there's a lot of things that play into that. So just kind of ramping up and moving towards ketogenic metabolism within the Feed a Brain framework, so that we're supplying all the nutrients that the brain and body needs, because you know, essentially for the brain to be healthy, everything needs to be healthy. We need to take care of our entire vessel for the brain to really be firing right. So this is where supplying the right nutrients and then doing so in a way that our metabolism is ready to handle, you know? So it can be carb heavy. Feed a Brain can totally be a carb heavy thing if you want to, but it's got to be high quality, solid carbs that are jam packed with brain supporting nutrients. And then it can also be a ketogenic style, where when you do eat produce or when you do eat carbs that are jam packed with all the good stuff. But then you switch over and you allow to eat less of the fruits and vegetables, the phytonutrients, because you've already built up the stores in your body, you know? So when we eat this way for a bit and we build up those stores, then we can totally do a ketogenic metabolism, slow our metabolism down, and fuel ourselves with the nutrients that we already have built up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I believe so, yeah. I know your focus, well, it seems like your focus has been, Feed a Brain, because the brain is the main thing that you've been healing in yourself. But then again, it's really heal your gut, feed your brain.
Right.
What have you found is, in order to heal your brain and for anyone to, reduce brain fog and just be clear and be able to think and all that, it sounds like it has to start obviously with diet, but it has to start with the gut and restoring that first. Mm-hmm. Or there are more direct ways to, like you feel, to affect the brain positively, where they just come together. That's just how it works.
We have 86 billion neurons in our brain. We have 100 million in our spine, and we have 100 million in our digestive system. So the brain and the spine are considered the central nervous system, and the gut or our digestive system is often referred to as the second brain. And in fact, we've all heard of GABA, serotonin, and melatonin. They're all neurotransmitters, right? Check this out. They're all found in the gut as well as the brain. And not only that, 90% of your body's total serotonin, which everybody thinks of as mood, and like we have drugs for serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
That's right,
yeah, exactly. Well, 90% of the serotonin is in your digestive system. So our digestion is super important to our brain health in so many ways. So yeah, while healing our gut is exactly what we want to do, while we're healing our gut, which I coach my clients to use bone broth to do, because I'm a big advocate of food, as I said, food before isolated nutrients in pill form. And so So going with bone broth and introducing that along with the foods that Feed a Brain outlines, that will help heal the digestion and give your brain the nutrients. Additionally, there is a way to feed a brain and do a elimination diet, an elimination protocol, which will heal your digestion. And I haven't written that book or anything yet, but thinking about actually rolling something out where we feed a brain and heal our digestion at the same time. But we can do that anyways. Most of us aren't, if we're not suffering from serious digestive issues, you might as well heal your gut while you're feeding your brain anyways by introducing bone broth. And in addition to bone broth being useful in healing digestion, it also is healing, or it provides nutrients for the structure of neurons. So it's just an excellent addition,
Well, the people that come to you or talk to you and ask for help, I mean, they can read your book, they can go to your websites and everything. Is there a percentage of them that are real difficult cases that you haven't been able to help? Are there ones that you're still trying to figure out what to do for, or do you feel like with the protocols you've figured out that pretty much everyone's covered?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the population I work with, for the most part, are loved ones of somebody who has had a severe traumatic brain injury. And when we damage the brain, it's neurons grow at around the rate of your hair. So rebuilding things is not necessarily a quick process, right? And intense damage can really, I mean, with all the nutrition and whatnot, it's definitely going to encourage the healing, but we've done so much damage, So absolutely, there are definitely cases where, like, this isn't a panacea to heal everybody. Like, you can go and get shot in the head and you'll be fine. Don't worry about it as long as you live. Like, it doesn't work that way. But the people I work with, and I guess I really want to drive home that I work with some really, really, really tough cases. That's actually what I get for the most part. That's what I love. That's who I love to work with. And
Okay.
What I can say is that with working with clients who have a loved one in a hospital setting, I have watched clients go from being in a coma to and then coaching my clients on how to talk to the medical team in order to implement high-dose omega-3 in the gastric feed, high-dose N-acetylcysteine, and other supplementation that we can do to help the brain to heal, because the science doesn't reach clinical practice for quite some time. So if we know how to talk to the medical team in a way to get them to implement what we want, we can get these practices had. So I've coached people to do that and watched people's loved ones wake up from a coma, and then watch them relearn how to sit up, regain the strength to sit, which I can totally relate with. I had no strength to even sit. I didn't know it takes strength to sit at the time, but it does. Not much, but didn't even have that. And so I've then watched patients, clients, loved ones take their first steps, and then finally watch them say hello to me and thank me. It's phenomenal.
That's really cool.
Doing this work is just like, it's amazing. I mean,
have you
it's like
have you
I have
actually
this
had
ability.
no, that's
Go ahead.
really great. A quick question: have you actually gotten people that have a feeding tube? Have you been able to literally give them bone broth while they're still in a coma or in a state where they couldn't communicate, and has it helped them?
Yes, absolutely.
It's really cool.
Yes, it is. It's really great feeling to see how this stuff just, works. It works. It's the science is there. It's shown to be effective. The risks are not there, really. And that's how I steered my recovery. I was like, all right, risks and unknowns versus possible benefits. All right, what's the risk and unknown of eating real food? Well, we know that it's safe because we've been doing it forever. And
right.
yeah, no risks, no unknowns. What are the risks and unknowns of eating high fructose corn syrup long term, which, by the way, is the main ingredient in many gastric feeds, which is just outlandish. Can you believe that?
I was going to say hospital food is it's sad. It's actually hospitals are actually almost proud that their food is just crap. It just makes no sense,
Yeah. It's funny that the place. Well, it's not funny, but the place that's trying to get you well is feeding you crap, And it seems so ridiculous that like anybody would say nutrition doesn't matter, knowing what we know, and it's like no. Like,
there's still studies coming out saying that organic foods don't make any difference, they're not any better.
Right.
It's just crazy. So. Yeah. If you go to the store and look at most of the products there's, flaming hot Cheetos, even the box stuff. It's amazing. I don't know, once you learn and you look at that stuff, you think, oh my God, this is just chemical garbage. How could I even eat this?
Totally. Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, it's convenience, and that's what so much of America values is convenience, right? Fast food, like. Have it in a box, like Hot Pockets, whatever,
Yeah.
And that convenience really, it makes sense. We are busy people. I'm extremely busy, which is why, I've streamlined what my practices are, in order to and I'm rolling out a program soon to really show how I implement what I preach, because my brain's very sensitive. Like if I don't feed my brain in the way I'm talking about, I crash. I don't last very long, And so I practice what I preach, and
okay.
And yet I'm very busy and I have a lot of stuff going on. And so I streamline it and have methods and ways of having food ready and convenient. Convenience is huge. On hand, ready to go when I'm hungry, boom, throwing some things together and it's good to go, And I'm going to be rolling out a program to show these practices and to help people to implement what we're talking about soon.
Yeah, let's now we're coming to the end. Let's summarize. You got a lot of resources, it sounds like. So if you can, let's give people a quick summary and when it's applicable, when it's not. So what do you have? You mentioned a book, a course, websites. Nice. What else? Let's go through them.
Yeah. So all right, I have a podcast, the Adventures in Brain Injury podcast, which is not just for people with brain injury at all. It's for people with a brain who, I came into this through brain injury, but it's gone so far beyond brain injury, and this is about nutrition for optimal brain function, and more than nutrition, different aspects to optimize brain function and to upgrade your life, So that's, I have the podcast. We also did a interview series Feed a Brain interview series with some of the top brain and nutrition experts of our time. Dr. David Perlmutter, Dr. Datis Krazin, Dr. Terry Walls, Norgie Gaudis, Jessica Flanagan, Keith Norris. Yeah, we had a good lineup. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, that's available on my website. There's also many articles about brain supplementation, because while I do think food first, and I'm all about food, there's definitely a place for supplements, especially when it comes to minerals and amino acids and nutrients that we don't get in our diet. I like how you brought up organ meat, because there's maybe your audience, but most people don't eat organ meats very often.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
So there's a company called Ancestral Supplements that makes organ meat capsules, and there are like liver capsules out there, but the thing is, humans didn't evolve just eating the liver, right? We ate everything. Right. We ate all the organs, including the brain, actually. And they actually have desiccated brain capsules. They're fantastic. And and if you use coupon code FEEDABRAIN, you get a discount with them too. I just love what they're doing with. I
just looked it up on Amazon. Yeah, I see. I take their pancreas one, but I haven't tried the others, so I'll have to try them. Okay.
Nice. Cool, man. Yeah.
Very cool.
Good stuff. It's good stuff. Yeah. So supplementation is very important as well. Soil depletion, things of that sort. And so you can actually go on my website, and you can get a handout of supplements. Like there's a lot of resources out there. Yes, you're right. The book, I wrote the book. Trying to remember all this stuff.
Well, what's a good starting point? That's probably the best way, is to give one or two resources, and then, as people get into it and get more curious, they'll branch out from there. So let's do that. So what is, there's only one place to go or two places to go. Where do they go to find out more from you?
Yeah, head over to feedabrain.com.
Okay.
And the first thing that I think your audience will dig, it might be stuff your audience already knows, but that's the guide to fats and oils. But what's cool about this guide? So I talk about the brain supportive fats and oils, and then the fats and oils to avoid. And then what I really like about this handout is that I also put smoke temperatures for each of the oils, because if we heat them above their smoke temperature, then the oil can oxidize, and the oxidized oils, they're no longer healthy. So we want to keep them below their smoke temp. So I actually have this nutritional guide on my fridge, because it's so useful. Like I take a look and I'm like, oh, okay, that goes that I want to keep that under 350. Cool. So yeah, it's good to know. Head over, grab that. And then also on that same page, there's also a supplement guide that you can grab. Check that out. Okay. And I like my supplements to be as close to food as possible. So, things like desiccated organ meats or specific fish oils that I find to be really powerful, especially those high in DHA.
Okay. Well, very good.
Yeah.
Well, Cavin, not Calvin, Cavin, thank you for coming on the podcast, and and I appreciate your time and your wisdom and everything.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.